Why, hello everybody, so welcome to another level up. Today we're talking about why board gaming is an advantageous hobby, or rather, in my view, the best hobby in the world. Now, first things, of course, I'm not going to say other hobbies are stupid, but I do believe through today some of the facts and figures, some of which are relative to me, the advantages that come with having such a great hobby such as board gaming is not to be ignored. And if you feel that they are good points that I point out, why not introduce board gaming to someone else, or rather pick it up yourself if you are not? So, the first one is enjoyment to cost ratio. Now, enjoyment is relative to person and situation to situation, but the big thing is that one of the advantages which I'll elaborate on later is that there is basically a board game for almost every situation and almost every kind of person out there. So I'm going to put it like an average there, that every person will have a certain like to a certain board game. So the enjoyment there and versus the cost ratio. The thing about board games, the best thing really, is that it's a one-time purchase. If you take care of your games, it's a one-time purchase, unlike something like if you enjoy eating out, or you're Epicurean of foods and restaurants and all, that's a cost that's going to happen every single time. You can't exactly buy a steak and enjoy a steak, for 10 years down the road. But board game, you can. Now, you can argue about expansions and all, but the good thing about board games is that you don't have to buy the expansions. Like, if you bought Descent for Fantasy Flight, you don't have to buy the rest to play the game. You can still play the base game, such as even Arkham Horror, alright? And that is the advantage it has actually over video games. If a person had an expansion and you did not, and you played online, you can't connect together. Because the new expansion changes the game so much, but with a board game, if it's up to you. If you just want to buy a base game and play it as that, even 10 years down the road, if there are 20 new editions, you can still play it with that rule set. And for 2013 to 2014, 2013 being the time I started the hobby, and 2014 being the time which I really got into playing a lot of games per week, I spent 55% less on my total spending. That is pretty significant. Now, again, I'm a very frugal person. I really don't spend a lot, being not the richest person in the world. But and that's why actually I'm giving the percentages instead. 55% less is quite a bit. And actually looking through the entries and all, simple reason. When 2014, all I did mostly was board gaming. Alright, and what do you do when you board gaming wise for expenditure? It's basically just transport. Alright, you go there, you play a game, and that's basically the main cost. Unlike if you're Epicurean, if you have to book a restaurant, or either a movie, you have to book the movie, you have to go there. Alright, and that only occupies you for like 2 hours, or maybe in terms of maybe if you eat really long, maybe 3 hours. But for board gaming, that can occupy you the whole night. So that's 1%. That's one piece of evidence. But that's relative to me. So I went to look up a very popular hobby in Singapore. Alright, and the reason why I use Singapore is because I was about to use US data. But the problem is I don't live there. I might get some facts wrong, or maybe something cultural or something like that. So instead, I'm going to stick with what I know, which is Singapore. So right now, 1 Singapore dollar is equal to about 80 cents USD. Alright, so just to give you the fact of numbers, I then went to look up a very popular hobby in Singapore, which is basically cars. When they talk about cars, of course, it means also the adding in of extra parts and all that. But I'm just going to give the cost of cars, so you can see that because if you want to get into the hobby, you must have that first big purchase, which is a car. And in Singapore, cars are basically moving houses because of how much they cost. Alright, so first let's get into on the Land Transport Authority, which is the government's transport authority in Singapore. I linked, and I will put the link below, a link to basically a compilation of the cost of cars in Singapore. Alright, now the big cars such as the mega cars like the Ferraris and all that, they don't list there because I only wanted to look at what was cost by the authorized dealers, of which I guess the Ferraris and all do not contribute to that. Alright, so but on this list, basically the cheapest car in Singapore, first hand, is and I don't drive at all, so if I butcher this, I apologize, a Nissan 1.2 CVT ABS LW5DR petrol. Alright, that's the cheapest car on that list. and it costs at the dealer, alright, on average, remember this is an average, with the tax that comes in Singapore, $102,800. Alright, yeah, I know, right? But also to give a contrast, the most expensive car on that list, remember that the mega cars are not listed there, was a BMW L8 LED HUD NAV petrol electric plug-in. That one, take a seat for this, is $599,800. Over $500,000 basically. Alright. Now you compare that to board gaming. Alright. Now the average cost, and I'll put a link below, you can check from to the place where I think most people get their board games nowadays, which is a online website in Singapore called Hobby GameSmart. Alright. The average cost of a game, I would say, is about $100. Alright, compared because of with shipping and everything, most games reach to about $60 to $100, and then you got the more expensive games and all that. So for ease, basically, let's say an average is about $100. To give a high-end skill, just to make it more fair even, compared to the car hobby. Alright, I know someone who has 792 games, which he started in 2006, 2005, 2006. So I counted it 2006. That's about 8 years. If let's say each game was about an average of $100, alright, because I also consider that you're maybe buying Grail games, which are higher cost and everything, that is $79,200. Or like he said, he could have bought a speedboat or something like that, alright? And that is in 8 years. So on average, he spends about $9,900 per year, alright? And again, going back to it, that's all a one-time purchase, which he takes good care of his games, and he actually plays the games, alright? Which is fantastic. So you compare that with the car hobby, alright? So that person, even if he bought the cheapest car, which is $102,800, alright? That's in one time. And then the rest of his hobby, basically the upgrading of the car and everything, is going to cost every single time he does it. For board gaming, my friend in 8 years has not even reached anything close to that amount. I mean, in fact, he still needs about 20,000 more, you know, so that's another few years before he even reaches that cheapest car. So that's why I think board gaming is such a great hobby in terms of cost to enjoyment ratio. Just to say the truth, that it's not a perfect hobby, it's of course space. Alright, I mean, let's be honest, most board gamers don't throw away the boxes and inserts and everything. I throw away inserts sometimes, I try not to, but I don't throw away the boxes, for sure. And space can be an issue, especially in a small country like Singapore. But not so for me, because actually I tend to want to keep my collection small enough whereby I can play 100% of my games every year, at least one time. And to top of that, board gaming is such an inclusive hobby. First thing reason is because of the amount of variety you have. You have games that literally all you do is you pick up a dice and roll like King of Tokyo, to an extremely complex game with over 50 pages of rules, which is like unconditional surrender. Alright, and you got every game in between. On top of that, situational. You can play board games anywhere. You know, I mean, one of the more uncomfortable places, but literally you could play on the floor, which is how I started playing even like miniature games and all. Or even like Risk, and it costs you nothing other than the initial purchase of the game. Alright, unlike, let's say, like video games and all, whereby you literally have to get another peripheral system to play the game, such as a PC, maybe a DS or something like that. Alright, and there are games for everybody. If you like apps, if you like something like chess with full open information, you got Go, chess and such. And then if you got others like you want something that's in the middle, maybe you got like a few acres of snow in terms of the luck versus skill factor, or something that's totally luck based like King of Tokyo, like I talked about before. So it's extremely inclusive hobby that almost, you know, everyone would have a game that they probably would like. And the most important one, the people. Alright, I really do believe board gaming brings people together, because other than solo gaming, which is nothing wrong with it, you need another person to play with. You know, I mean, literally, you have to sit in front of someone else to play with them, which is, if there's a hobby that in a way forces you to get together and be socially, compromising with other people, meaning that you know, let's be honest, if you're not nice to people, they won't play with you. Or more average, they will probably try to avoid you. So I think it teaches you social skills at the same time. Alright, and to show this, I did a count on the amount of people I played with, even if I played with them one time. Alright, or the amount of people I played with over the time I started board gaming. And there were, and again, I might have missed out people and all, but to my calculation, I played with about 97 people since I started board gaming, and only 8 people are people which I literally would refuse to play with. I mean, literally, I mean, unless it's really a forced situation. These are people from my Terrible Tales of Gaming Horror, which is in my YouTube page. You know, I talk about the stories of why I don't play with them. Alright, only 8 out of 97 people. And of course, the average on that is about 8%. Only 8% of people are really people which, they basically are the only ones that break that rule, is that I put out in board gaming. No one's asking for a saint, just be normal. Now you compare that with like poker. When I was playing poker almost full time and everything, in the later years especially, you know, it just became not worth it anymore. The amount of people I wanted to hang out with in that hobby was probably less than 50%. You know, so it's a lot, trust me. The egos and the amount of people that would cheat each other for money and all, it was just horrible. In terms of a hobby and the kind of people that, I was surprised that the percentage of people that were really, you know, touch and go was so low. I'm sure my 8% would go lower if I met more people, because, you know, the percentages already show just 97 people. I just played with 97 people on average. Alright, if I knew more, I'm sure that more people on average are going to be nicer, and that percentage will go way lower. And on top of that, one thing about the board game community, and check this out on our website, again I will link below, called Board Game Geek, which is basically this website that compiles, I would say, almost every game out there, especially the newer games. Alright, you can see the comments on stuff. There are trolls there, no doubt. In every hobby we're going to get those guys. But compared to other websites such as politics, philosophy, and let's say video games, I think it's pretty obvious the average comment on Board Game Geek is at least respectful to a certain extent, even if sometimes they don't make the most, they don't give the most evidence for it, or rather impartial evidence. Whereas in a video game one, it can get pretty trollish, or even on YouTube, you know, it can get really, really bad. So again, this is another point where, again, an average kind of thing whereby, you know, I think the average person that plays board games, because they have to deal with people all the time face to face, probably are more sociable. But I don't have an exact statistic for that. In conclusion, I hope the evidence helps today to show what a great hobby that board gaming is. And again, I do sincerely hope that if anything, if you know someone who's not into board gaming, why not ask them to give it a try? What have they to lose, right? So, thank you very much. Till next word.